Yeah, sorry to hear it. I didn't think, I thought it was my internet, that's why I never sent nothing, but...
Wait. Okay, wait, I fixed the mic now again. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so, basically what happened was, and sorry about my mic, being muted again, guys. But, what happened was I had opened up a few tabs on my computer, and, my OBS had just crashed. I don't know why. It wasn't a DDoS attack, for people wondering. No, it wasn't that. It was just my, my computer started lagging. I opened up, like, a few browsers, and it's just OBS crashed and ended the stream. It kind of pissed me off because now I'm gonna have 2 streams up on the same day. But it's, I wish there was a way for you to just combine streams for YouTube. I wish you could just combine it into one stream, but it's just, that. But, now... Okay, let me see. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, okay, and, let me see here. Okay, so the person who wanted to know how much my Scarface suit cost, right? One person wanted to know. Let me tell you right now. Before my stupid thing started crashing, it was just, okay. Okay, the Hawaiian shirt, Tony's Hawaiian shirt cost me $60. So that shirt was not, cheap. Let me see the other ones. Tony's black suit cost me $100. It was an actual suit. And it was like the vest, the white vest cost $25. The red button shirt cost $28. So for people wondering how much the suit costs, thanks for the stream. Well, thank you, Morton. And I'm sorry for the crash, guys. I'm sorry I'm sorry for everybody that got another notification on this. I didn't want it to, you know, to do this, but, this... Yeah, last stream unfortunately crashed, No, I have no plans to go to Florida yet. What trio?
Can you help me sell my trader business, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Do you want me to invite you to my posse?
I'm already a member. Just start it up. How many % of the plot have you already passed? What do you mean? What plot? Have I ever been threatened that I would get fired or replaced at retail? No. I did get I did get threatened that my hours would get cut. I was told that like once. I had a manager tell me once that my hours were gonna get cut, and the reason he was threatening to cut my hours was because I told him that I was tired of working on truck for not time and a half, because I was working like overnight shifts and I wasn't getting paid time and a half, and I had to do a lot of like manual labor during that, and I was asking for time and a half and I was denied that. And I told him that if I'm not going to get time and a half for, like, working night shifts, then I'm not going to work night shifts. And he basically told me that if you're not going to work night shifts, then you're not going to get any extra hours throughout the week for that. And I basically told him, okay, that's fine. And that, like, completely threw him off because he thought that I was just going to give in. But I said, no, if I'll lose the extra hours then. I won't work then. And then he started saying to me, well, if you don't work, that's going to put me in a harder position. Basically, like, I didn't say much more than that, but what was going through my head was that was not really my problem. It was that's really what was going through my head, because, you know, I got threatened to cut my hours, and then when I wasn't going to give in, it was just that, but... Did the stream crash? Yes, it did, JM. JM, thank you for the super chat. If you didn't hear me, like, go back like 5 minutes beforehand, and I read off how much the Scarface suits cost, because I know you were wondering about that before. I had my stream crashed. And for anybody new that joined, no, I did not get DDoSed. It was OBS crashed.
I think Brandon needs an invite to the posse, Cowboy. Thank you.
Okay, where is your camp right now, Trio?
In Scarlet Meadows, in the mine.
Okay.
Okay, before you do that, I gotta find a Regener ammo.
Okay. It kind of sucked that the stream crashed, because we literally had like 500 viewers on the stream before, which is really good for a Red Dead stream. Pro, in Skyrim, did you side with the Empire or the Rebellion? You mean the Stormcloaks? Whenever I played through Skyrim, I did typically side with the Stormcloaks on that. I mean, both factions kind of suck when you think about it. The Empire is just like... The Empire is controlled by a bunch of Imperials. Like, if you look at who controls the Empire, it's mostly all Imperials. The Empire is supposed to be like a unified land of all these different territories, but it's mostly Imperials that control it. And they're pretty out of touch with, like, the Nords in Skyrim, and then they also banned the worship of Talos. So the Empire kind of really sucks, but the Nords also, they kind of suck also. The Nords, like the Stormcloaks, are very they're very unreasonable, and they're pretty racist towards people who aren't Nords. So it's like both of the factions kind of really suck. And then there's also talk that, like, Ulfric is just, like, power hungry, but that's never proven. You just heard, like, rumors from people that say he's power hungry, but it's just, yeah.
Are we ready to sell this right now?
So, like, both factions in Skyrim, both factions kind of suck. Honestly, I wish there was an option where you could just build your own faction, and you could just kill the Empire and the Stormcloaks, and take over and, like, be High King of Skyrim. I wish there was, like, an option like that, because I would do that. I'd kill both of them if I could.
That's weird. I couldn't set the pellets.
Are we ready to sell this right now?
I'm ready whenever you are. Do I speak Polish? I do.
Start it.
Yes, Tommy Versetti's gonna get a lore video soon. Hey, Pro, would you ever write a book about your life? Honestly, if I would write a book about anything, it wouldn't even be about YouTube. It would probably be about like how to like starting out on your first job in retail and how to not let people take advantage of you. Maybe that's what I would write a book about, if anything.
That's good.
What do I think about Fallout factions, you mean? Do I still work at retail? No, I haven't worked in retail for almost 3 years. So no. You should write a book about stock market trading. Nah, I would not be good at that. I'm not an expert on the stock market by any means. I've been doing it for, you know, a little over 2 years, but I'm not an expert by any means. And I've lost money on the stock market. I've made stupid purchases on the stock market. So there's some, I did buy the Tony Montana suit off Amazon. Thank you, JM58, for the super chat. No, I'd never been to the Netherlands. The worst retail experience that I've ever encountered? Be a hard question to answer. Yeah, the worst retail experience that I've ever had is probably when this customer threatened me. Basically, what happened was this was like right before closing. So this is like an hour before closing. I was on the register, and this guy comes in, and he wanted he bought a pack of gum, and then he got $10 cash back. And he comes back like 5-10 minutes later, and he said that the laundromat doesn't take $10 bills, and so he wanted singles. And so I gave him 10 singles. Then he comes back maybe like 20 or 30 minutes later, and he just starts screaming at me the second he comes through the door, and he starts saying that after he left that somebody had prank called him, and he accused me of doing it. And I don't know why he thought that I prank called him. He probably thought that I prank called him because to get the store, if you don't have a store card, you can give your phone number, and that'll pull up your account. So it's the same thing as a store card. And he basically just said that that right after he gave his number, that somebody was prank calling him. And I was like, I'm not prank calling you. I have literally better things to do. I don't do that. And literally, I'm like, there's like a camera right above my head. You can ask my manager. I did not call anybody. Like, I don't have time to call anybody as constant customers. Even before closing, there's a lot of people still come in the store. So I'm like, yeah, I did not prank call you. Why would I do that? And he just basically says to me, I better not find out that you did it. And so what happens is literally like maybe like 45 minutes later, you know, the store closes. And what happens is I'm going to my car in the parking lot at night, and this guy's like right near my car. He confronts me, and he starts saying to me that I better not find out that you prank called me again. Like, he starts saying it again and starts like yelling and stuff like that. And so he waited till the store closed and just like sat outside. I'm assuming he knew which one my car was because there were very few cars in the parking lot at that point. And what happened was my supervisor, her husband was there, and her husband was like this really big guy. And so he just happened to be there, and he saw what was going on, and he walks up to the guy, and he just tells him to stop, and stop being an idiot, basically. I don't remember what he said, but he was just said something along the line, stop being stupid to the guy, and just saying he didn't call you, and just, basically, then he told me to get in my car and just go home, and so I just got in my car, and I drove home, and I never saw that customer again, so that was that. But I don't know what would have happened if her husband wasn't there. This guy wasn't a big guy, but he was bigger than me. But my supervisor's husband was a really big guy. So that was just that. I guess when he got involved, the customer backed off and was just like, you know, stop being stupid. But that was just, you know, a stupid story. And that.
Are you taking the train station back the quickest way?
Yeah, we could cross the bridge. Do you know about the shortcut on the bridge, Trio?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, can somebody ride up ahead and just watch the train tracks and make sure no
train... the train's right here.
Okay, well, as long as we just watch the trains and,
the train stopped down where I'm at. I'm hoping it's going. Yeah, it's going. Listen, things moving.
There's nobody left to kill, so.
You know, what I'll
good.
tell you guys is, though, that's the most insane thing that I've ever heard a customer say. Like, the most insane thing I've ever heard somebody say, and it wasn't even at my store. It wasn't that. I was at Best Buy, and basically what had happened was
Things coming towards you guys.
Okay, you don't get on the tracks here, Trio, because it's very uneven. Just keep following the grass. Keep following the grass
Okay.
right now, yeah. And, wait, let me get out my gun here.
Things gone.
Get on the tracks there. Wait till the train moves. But, the craziest thing that I, ever heard a customer say, it was at Best Buy. And I don't even work at Best Buy, but I just happened to be there. And so what happened was my mom, was getting a new phone. And I hadn't gotten a new phone for like 4 years. I'm not one of those people that buys a new phone every year. I buy a phone like every 5 years. And so I hadn't had a new phone for like 5 years. And my mom's like, you want to get a new phone? I'm upgrading to. And I was like, I might as well get one. And so we went to Best Buy. We were sitting at that counter in Best Buy, you know, where they have the phones. And, you know, they sign you up for the phone plan and everything like that. And so I'm sitting there. And what happens is this guy comes up. And he just starts complaining, just giving an attitude to the customer service, saying, you know, me and my wife have been here. We've been waiting for like 30 minutes or something like that, and blah, 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 this. And, you know, this guy was just being a moron. I wish I would have said something to him. I should have said something to him, but I just remained silent. But the guy was being an idiot, because I waited online for like 45 minutes, and I didn't complain. Like, I waited for 45 minutes until it was my turn. So I didn't complain. It's like these people have no patience. And the thing is, the people at the cell phone counter, they were doing work. It wasn't like they were just slacking off. Like, these customers are such idiots. Like, oftentimes they're just complaining about dumb things. They think that the people are slacking, when in reality they were busy. They had a lot of people. If the customers want to complain about long lines, they shouldn't complain to customer service. Instead, they should complain to corporate and tell them hire more people at the store, because it's most of the time it's stupid corporate who they cut people's hours and they have very little people on shift. They'll have 3 people on shift when they would really require 6 or 7 people on a shift. So they'll cut people's hours. But anyways, that's not the most insane thing I heard a customer say. That's just the first part of the story. So first part of the story, I hear this idiot come up, starts complaining to the phone people, just starts saying, me and my wife have been here for 45 minutes, blah, 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 this, 30 minutes, whatever it was. He was like half an hour. And I was sitting in there waiting around the same time he was. I finally get a seat, and the second I finally get a seat, this idiot comes over and starts complaining. Then what happens is, I'm sitting there at the counter with them. We're in the middle of finalizing like a plan, and I was gonna get the new iPhone at the time. What was it? The iPhone X, I think it was. I'm not good with phones, but it was that I have a different phone now, but it's this was like in 2019. So I was gonna get the new iPhone at the time. And what ended up happening was, when I'm literally finishing the paperwork there, we're finishing doing everything we have to do, this guy comes out of nowhere, and this guy is, like, huge. Like, this guy looks like, you know, a steroid junkie, basically. Like, this guy was massive, you know, and I think maybe steroids played some role in it. Because it's how aggressive he was. But the guy literally says to the people at the phone counter, he says, you better give me a good blank deal or I'm gonna beat the blank out of you. That's literally what he said. And I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe what I just heard, because it was out of nowhere. Like, this guy just comes on over and just literally threatens to beat these guys up. Like, it was like, I couldn't believe what I was just hearing. It was like, what? It was just, that was like the most insane thing that I ever heard a customer say to somebody, but that was just, like, I couldn't believe it. That was just, you know, it was like, what? And it was just, that was just, for me, that was just, hello everyone, and hello Pro. Sorry that I'm late to the stream. I went out for dinner with some of my friends. Anyways, happy Friday. Hope that Red Dead gets an update this month. Thank you, George. And you don't have to apologize for being late to the stream. Watch whenever you want, George. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Chasseruni. We had a customer similar to your supervisor's husband, really friendly with us, and he used to be a bouncer, a huggable giant, and can be real intimidating if you give him a reason to be. Yeah. And those are, you know, those are generally like the best people. Those are generally like the best people to be around. You know, somebody that's very friendly and nice and compassionate to people, but also can step in when things get out of control. So that's like you know. Thank you, Jazzy, for sponsoring my channel. iPhone 11 was in 2019. I don't remember what it was then. Honestly, I don't even know what iPhone I have right now. I don't even know which iPhone this is. I'm terrible with phones. But I got this phone. Last year when my last iPhone broke. Yeah. This is my iPhone. It's and I got there's like the big camera here on this. I don't know what iPhone this even is. Is this the? This was the newest one at the time, but it's whatever. I'm terrible with phones. I don't know much about them, so it's just that. That's it. Yeah.
You said the guy was a steroid junkie?
I think he was a steroid junkie. I didn't.
Steroids are just, steroids in America is illegal.
Hey David, thank you for the super chat. Is this a 13? Well, I bought this phone last year, so it was last October when I bought this phone, and it was the newest phone at the time. So this is the phone that I have.
6 minutes to full gold.
What's your thoughts about retail now? What I'll tell you about retail is it honestly makes me really happy that so many people are quitting, because in all of American history, right now at this moment, the most amount of people have quit retail than ever before in American history. And so it's like it's just not just retail, it's fast food. It's a lot of jobs that require customer service. People are mass quitting, and people are economists are calling it the mass resignation. The reason people are quitting so much is because they've been locked down during the pandemic, and they've been looking at other ways to make money. And so people went back to school. Some people learned stock trading. You know, some people opened up businesses. People did all different types of things, and so they're getting out of that environment. And what I'll tell you is honestly, like the company that I worked for, the attitude that company had regarding their employees was, if you don't like it, quit. That was really their attitude. They always had that attitude, and a lot of companies have that. Is, if you don't like it, quit. Well, the thing that what I find absolutely hilarious is that these same companies, people are mass quitting now. They're taking their advice. If you don't like it, quit. They're quitting, and these same companies are struggling to find workers now, and they're actually complaining. I've seen a lot of these companies release statements complaining that they can't find any workers now. And it's like they're complaining they can't find workers, but like, who wants to work for your stupid company working minimum wage just to get shouted and abused by unreasonable customers all day? It's like, you know, if you want people to work for you, you give them incentives, you give them better raises, you give them better wages. You don't pay the minimum wage and then expect that they're going to be 5-star employees. That's what I've always found fascinating about these stupid companies, is these stupid companies think that if they pay somebody a minimum wage, that they're going to get 5-star customer service. They think they're going to get the best customer service in the world by paying somebody minimum wage. And that's literally that.
Thank you everyone for helping me with that. I appreciate that.
But one of the best advice that I can give you, in my opinion, is that if you have like if you ever have a boss tell that to you, if you try to bring a legitimate concern to your boss, like something bad is going on at your job, like you feel that you deserve a raise, you feel you've worked really hard for your company, and you try to talk to your boss about it, and your boss, instead of trying to reason with you, just basically says to you that if you don't like it, quit. The advice that I would give you at that point is to find another job immediately. Like, don't tell your boss right there, then and there, you quit unless you can support yourself, but start looking for another job, because if they tell you those words, if you don't like it, quit, you are never going to get anywhere with them. They are never going to be on your side. They're never going to help you. And so just find another job. And then literally after you find another job, just tell your boss that, like, oh, I did find another job. I took your advice. So that's just it. That's what I say. If they ever say those words to you, if you don't like it, quit, find another job. Don't work for them.
Can I have an invite to your posse, please, professional?
Does anyone need help selling anything, by the way?
No.
I have
No, I'm good.
You have what, Saucer?
Oh, but it's 3 minutes.
What's in 3 minutes?
Who's gold?
Okay, we'll do Fool's Gold. And what did you say, Saucer? You have something to sell?
Yeah, I at least have those, and I think my camp is also ready. I mean, if you want.
Okay, we'll do Fool's Gold then, right after this, and then we can, quit your job, YouTuber advice. Well, it's not, it's, remember what I said. I said don't just quit your job right away, but start job hunting immediately. When you hear somebody say that to you, just start looking for another job. Like, you want to get out of there as quickly as you can. That is honestly one of the worst things that you can say to your employees. If you don't like it, quit.
Can I have an invite to a posse, please? I'm a professional.
Sure.
Okay.
Hey Pro, you running to the helicopter and dying at the end of the mission in Modern Warfare Remastered playthrough was a pretty funny glitch. Thank you, Wolfkiller. I don't know what caused that. Thank you, Jake, for the super chat also.
I actually had rewatched that. That's a pretty rare.
Is someone's going to stay behind on invite only session? So we don't have to do another one?
Oh yeah. I guess we can just make another one
about to get
afterwards. Sauce, are you
ammo.
joining the posse?
Oh, jeez.
Modern Warfare, yeah, 2 is coming out this year.
Alright.
And I do believe, Pro, you got a Trader too, I think.
Yeah, you're, it's full. Check.
Posse? Okay, hang on. I'm gonna remove a persistent member.
Here you are. Reckon you've been traveling since last time. Take a look at what we got.
Do you add members? Yeah, I try to add everyone that I can, Jazzy. Hi, Pro. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Brett. Thanks, man.
Thank you kindly. That's that. Much appreciated.
Okay. Who's the least violent gang on Saints Row? Was it the Vice Kings? Yeah, I'd say it was probably the Vice Kings. Okay, guys, ready for Fool's Gold?
Yep.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
I think we'd
I
all
got
feel
ammo?
better if you put that gun away.
Well, no, TNG. I'll read people's comments regardless of whether they super chat or not. Just super chat comments, they appear like bright, so I just see them right away, and I want to thank the people who donated. That hat equals instant like. Thank you, man. Why did the USSR collapse? Few reasons. They were fighting a war in a really dumb war in Afghanistan. They were trying to spend way too much money on the military, more money than they had. They were suffering, you know, the cost from the Chernobyl disaster even years later. Also, there was a lot of there was a coup in the USSR, literally like a few months before it collapsed, and that was pretty much the end of it at that point.
What kind of coup?
Basically, what happened was Gorbachev was trying to make the USSR more democratic. And what happened was in August of 1991, a bunch of Soviet generals had him arrested at his house near the Black Sea. And they claimed on Soviet TV that Gorbachev was ill. But in reality, they had him arrested, and they tried to overthrow the government, and it failed.
So it was a military coup.
Yes.
Bomb me.
I think Vice City is a fun game and cool. Oh yeah, it is, JM. And thank you, Armand. Hey Pro, when is that lore video coming out for why Trevor forgave Michael? Also, why don't you play GTA Chinatown Wars and True Crime? I really love your lore videos. I will have a video on Michael and Trevor, but probably in the next few weeks. I will have another video first before that. I'll have a video on Floyd and Deborah. That video will be first before that video. I have the script done. I just have to record a few things for it and record the lines. but that will be up. And I have another lore video on Tommy Vercetti. That one's coming out in a few days. So I've already been like, you know, I've been working on a bunch of lore content. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but did you ever do the Petrovic missions on GTA 4 multiplayer? No, I didn't, Jake. I was just waiting for my buddy to get on because one of my friends used to play GTA 4 a lot back in the day, and so I just want to I wanted to do it with him.
Dom. Anybody on the top?
In case if you die or something, take the whole book.
Oh, I nearly got that thing.
Alright.
Okay, doing pretty well there, guys.
Group up on posse leader.
Haircut tutorial.
Yeah, these players are idiots.
That would be a
They don't
very
know
weird
where we're
video
at.
for me to make on a gaming channel. I don't think so though, because yeah, what kind of music do I listen to? I listen to all types of music. I listen to pretty much everything.
Dom.
What do you think that the government should do with companies that mislead the public? Well, it depends what you mean by mislead the public. What do you mean, like false advertising? Or you mean like products that don't actually work? Well, there are punishments for that.
Someone drop it. Someone get it.
Alright, Evan in the roof.
Thank you, JM, and yeah, it's like less and less people are watching the clickbait nowadays. My favorite GTA San Andreas mission, end of the line.
Someone got it.
Ah, crap. I had the camera there. I got boys. See us?
Got him, okay. Doing really well here.
Oh.
Oh, I will play the Yakuza games one day, but those games I know are really long.
I just lagged out.
Dom.
I didn't know. I just lagged out.
Okay, well, we're gonna be back in like 2 minutes anyways. Brandon, could you get that poker table ready then? Or, I mean, not poker,
Yeah.
I bought the gun right there. No, I didn't. Tell me he's in a roof.
have I ever watched
Dom.
Breaking Bad? Thank you, Jake, for the super chat. I've seen clips of it, but I've never actually watched the show, no. Well, this has been actually a pretty fun Fool's Gold, and we didn't really have sweats in this mode, so that's,
Guys,
That's
any
a-
Oh
help?
yeah, Sniper Elite 5 is a great game. Sniper Elite 5 is the best, like, World War II game that I played in a long time.
Got two guys after
Call
me.
of Duty World War II?
Oh. Thank you.
Go.
Oh. Shit.
Okay, we got this. Good work, guys. You can also check out some gameplay in my playthroughs if you want to see what it looks like before you buy it. Well, Red Dead might be 60 FPS if they ever release a PS5 version, Jan 58. I mean, they better have a 60 FPS version if they make a PS5 version, because that'd be really stupid if they don't.
I'm on the one that they got zero. Where they got no devs.
I killed 13 people, and I got 0 deaths.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't see that.
My favorite jet in GTA 5, the Molotov.
I was used to the roof. Kill him.
I did. I didn't know that YouTuber, but I heard about him passing away. That's really sad. How well do you know about the Holy Roman Empire and the Mongolian Empire? The Holy Roman Empire I know a little bit about. The Mongolian Empire I know way more about. Holy Roman Empire was like a, you know, loose confederation of German states.
Take this potatoes. No, it's not let me.
Oh, great. Getting chased over here now.
One guy's after us.
These people are just salty that they lost. They're not attacking us.
I'm about to bury his body.
Oh, probably go upstairs and hide there.
Oh, $50. Bounty. Oh,
Wait until the wanted level goes down here. No, Michael was not in witness protection, but you know who was in witness protection? Jerry Martinez was.
some guy got $50 bounty. Go ahead. Take it. Don't kill him. Oh, wait.
Saucer, can you go to a new session? And I'm gonna invite you right now. I'm at the poker table.
Ash. Yeah, something just happened.
What happened?
Yeah.
I'm in a loading screen. Did you do something?
Oh, I guess it took you
Yeah.
guys with me. Oh, I didn't even know it would do that. Right.
Okay, we'll figure this out.
Okay.
I'm stuck at a black screen.
Yeah, I'm on the poker table right now.
Hey Pro, would you rather get 3 million diverse portfolio right now, stocks, real estate, cash, crypto, etc., or $10,000 a month for the rest of your life with no inflation? I'd rather the $10,000 a month for the rest of my life. That I'd prefer, because that's stable money, and it's not going to change, versus the $3 million you're putting in stocks, and you don't know what the hell is going to happen.
I think he only would prefer the $10,000 option.
Are you guys stuck on the black screen? I'm not.
Yes.
Hey Pro, you're going to be president. No, I don't think I'm going to be president.
Yeah, I think I'm on.
I would not want anything to do with politics, no thank you.
I'm turn off the red edge. What's with that?
Okay. Let me leave here.
That's a good idea. I'm closing app. I'm
Exit
gonna
alone.
restart, and then you can send me an invite, and I'll do the same.
I mean, we're having fun on Reddit Online, just hanging out. Do I like making crazy current event videos? Yeah, I just haven't had as much time to make them, but okay.
How many glasses am I drinking from?
Okay, Saucer invited you. Can you invite me?
I had to close Red Dead, and I'm.
Oh, okay. I'll
I'm
take your time.
Yeah, I'm just spawning in a moment.
Have you ever heard a customer that records you and threatens you to be online? No. But I'll tell you something. When people record those videos, oftentimes, like, it's like the people that record those videos, oftentimes they want to try to make somebody look bad. So also, remember something else. What people see in a video can be manipulated extremely, because the only thing you see in a video is you see what happens after the video starts recording. You don't see what happened before the video, and a lot of people forget that. What will happen is somebody will record somebody will record somebody that's getting pissed off and annoyed, but they don't show what happened before the video. They don't show that the person recording might have actually caused the person to get mad or something like that. People do that all the time. They'll cause an argument and then they record that person and try to make that person look bad without showing what happened beforehand.
I'm ready.
Okay, you have my invite still?
I do have your invite. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you when. Now.
Okay. But like, I'll give you an example. There is a video on YouTube that went around recently, and this video has gotten like really popular. And basically, this mom records her ex-husband, and she thinks that she's gonna somehow prove something by recording her ex-husband, but she actually proved that she was the one that was being unreasonable. Basically, what happened was she was recording her ex-husband when he came to her house or somewhere where he was meeting them, and what happened was he bought food and brought food for his son. And what happened was his ex-wife was complaining that the ex-husband wasn't bringing food for the rest of her kids, and the rest of her kids were not his kids. He was only bringing food for his son, and she was like complaining and giving an attitude that he didn't bring food for for her kids also. And he said that those aren't my kids. And he brought food for his own son. You know, he was responsible for his own son, but he wasn't responsible for his ex-wife's kids. They have no relation to him, and yet she was demanding that he buy them food, and that was just that. If he bought them food, that'd be really nice of him, sure, but he's not responsible for them. He's only responsible for his son, and so she recorded this video, put it up on YouTube, trying to make him look bad, when in reality, she was the one who was unreasonable. Hey, 3 questions. What do I like more, Red Dead Redemption 1 or Red Dead Redemption 2? I've liked both of them, but I think Red Dead 2.
Sorry to interrupt. Close your app and
Yeah.
restart it, and
Yeah.
then when you get in, I'll invite you.
Yeah, because when you try to accept the invite right after that, it doesn't, okay.
About to go to his target right here.
Hey, Pro, how do you balance your time between which games you play? I have a huge backlog. How can I make a gaming schedule to beat all my games? I mean, I don't really, you know, there's a lot of games I haven't gotten the chance to play. Like, I bought the game, The Sinking City 3 years ago, and I never got the chance to even start it because I've been busy with so many things. But, I guess it's play one game at a time. That's what I would say. Like, play one game at a time and don't play multiple games, because when you play multiple games, you're going to throw other games to the side. Play one game, beat it, and then move on to the next game. Am I alright? Undead Nightmare, I almost forgot about that. That was a great DLC. Am I still able to play GT Online on the Xbox One, or is it only available on the Xbox Series X? Because it keeps saying that it's not compatible on Xbox One. What? If you should be able to play the Xbox One version on the Xbox Series X version. That should let you. Thank you, Terrell, for the super chat. And thank you, Mr. Waifu. I heard about that story through Optimus. He had no obligation to feed his kids that aren't his. Yeah, those. He brought food for his son, which is the right thing to do. But he had no obligation to buy food for the ex-wife's kids, because those aren't his kids. That's the ex-wife's responsibility. But what I'll tell you is, imagine if he had kids in another marriage, and then he started giving an attitude to his wife about not buying food for his other kids. You know, the ex-wife, I guarantee, would not be agreeing to that, and she'd be giving an attitude. So why does she expect him to pay for her kids? Those aren't his kids. That's just, and also they're divorced. They're not on good terms. He's supporting his child. He's giving his child food. You know, he's supporting his child financially. His ex-wife has custody of his child, but he has no obligation to pay for his ex-wife's kids also. So that's only for his own son. So that's just
not fair.
like by the ex-wife's standards, by her standards, is if he has kids in another marriage, then she has to start paying for his kids if he's paying for her kids also. But she wouldn't agree to that. So that's just her being entitled and just her being stupid. Are you surprised by retail workers quitting on the mass? No, I think it's good. I think it's good that retail workers are mass quitting. I think it's good, because it'll encourage these companies to change if they can't find people.
Hey, I'll catch you guys later. I want to get off for tonight.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see you guys next time.
Have a good night.
Nice meeting you guys.
Okay, I'll see you. Take care, man. Oh, Professional, much love from New Orleans. Do you have a favorite book? My favorite book would probably have to be Animal Farm by George Orwell. Thank you for the super chat offer. I think PvP on Red Dead Online is better than PvP on GTA. No, I haven't, Golo. The stupidest PvP encounter I've ever experienced in GTA. One of the really stupid ones was this guy once orbital cannoned me when I was in a post-op van making drops, and then he sent me a message 1-0. That was really stupid. That actually happened. There was I'm trying to remember what else it was. Another really stupid encounter. I've seen some really dumb people on Red Dead. I'm not on GTA Online. Oh yeah. So this happened a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, I was just playing GTA Online on my own time. I made a new character, which is kind of like a biker character that I have on there now. And basically what happened was I was just gathering some crates when it was like double money on like, it was an event for crates. It was just like a few weeks ago, something with crates. And I was like getting a few crates together, and I had like a 3 crate drop. And what happens is I see this guy literally drive up to one of my crates, and he starts firing rockets towards it. He missed, and then I blew him up. I was in a Sparrow. And I got the crate, and I literally messaged him on the phone in GTA. I said, please, like, don't destroy people's crates. It's wrong to do. And Do you know what he did? He went up to my other crate and he blew it up and he destroyed it. And literally, at that point, I got annoyed. I flew over there with the Sparrow. I killed him like 10 times in a row. Like, I just kept blowing him up every time he would respawn. I flew over to him with the helicopter, and I just kept killing him after he destroyed my crate. And then what happened was he sent me a bunch of messages just cursing at me really badly. And it was on the phone in GTA. He got around the profanity filter because he would type out partial curses, but I knew exactly what he was saying. And then the most ridiculous part of the story, he accused me of griefing him and trying to ruin his fun. Lily, I told him to leave my crates alone, and he came on over and destroyed my crates, and so he got pissed off when I kept killing him over and over again. It's like, you're gonna blow up my crates, I'm gonna kill you over and over again. It's like, I usually don't get into fights with people in, like, GTA or Red Dead, but if you mess with my cargo or something like that, or you mess with my friend's cargo, I'm gonna kill you over and over again. And that's just it. It's like, you don't want to get killed, don't blow up people's cargo. It's as simple as that. If somebody like kills me once in like Red Dead Online or GTA, I'll be like, whatever, okay, and I'll move on. But if you try to blow up cargo, that's like a whole different story at that point. It's just so that's just it.
About years ago, I was selling diamonds for my special cargo, but some idiot destroyed me for no reason. It blew up my diamonds shipment, all for nothing. The griefers. It shows that griefers are dumb.
I think thank you for the super chat, Jake. I think everyone deserves equal rights, and I think that everyone should have the right to marry whoever they want. Thank you, Terrell. Yes, it's saying that it's not compatible. I still have Xbox One. That's weird. Well, I don't know what else I can say, though. I'm not good much with Xboxes. I have an Xbox One, but I don't know much about it, but it should be compatible. If you have the Series X, it should be compatible. Thank you, Terrell. Have I read Fahrenheit 451? It's about censorship. No, I've never heard of that book. You didn't change the game changed you. Yes, Nico said that to Playboy. That was one of Nico's best lines. Thank you, George. Yeah, before I hit 50 million, somebody blew up my bunker. Yeah, thank you, TNG. And that's the thing is, I don't understand these idiots on, like, GTA Online, like, a lot of times, is, what I'll tell you is that, like, do you know how many times it's happened where, like, I was playing with a bunch of friends, like, in the past, when I used to, like, run MCs with, like, 8 people, and, what would happen is, like, how many is it? 7 or 8? It's 7 or 8 on GTA, but it's, anyways, I would run, like, full MCs on GTA. And what happened was, when we were selling like an MC business and we had like some idiot try to blow up like the MC product, we would kill them over and over again. And these people would like send me messages saying like, wow, 8 versus 1, this is totally unfair. Like, you guys like playing like this? You guys like, double teaming, triple teaming somebody and stuff like that? And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, are you a moron? Like, I was like, are you stupid? It's like somebody goes over to somebody else, tries to blow up their cargo, starts a fight. You see an entire MC. You see a full MC of people selling product, and you go over there and try to blow them up, and then you get all pissed off that they attack you? It's like, how stupid are you? It's like people are stupid. They need to think before they act. It's just dumb people. Like, how stupid can you be? It's like, what I've always said is, don't start a fight you can't finish. And that's a perfect example of that. If you try to attack a full MC while they're selling product, you deserve to get killed over and over again by that MC. You brought that on yourself.
Yeah, I don't do briefing that much. That's my moral code in GTA Online.
I don't
start out the posse again.
But I will drop into like a weaponized car and just shoot missiles at people's cars, but not at products every once in a while.
What's the stars new member icon? No, I think the stars were just changed. I think they're still members icons, but I think they were changed from their previous symbols. I just don't like beards personally, Legacy. I mean, I'm not really much into streaming GTA, Nicholas, anymore. I'll tell you something.
agree.
I will
No.
stream the next update. So when the next update of GTA comes out, I'll stream it. I promise you that. But I don't stream GTA much anymore, and I don't stream GTA for 2 reasons. The first reason is because I moved on to other games. I don't want my channel to be dependent on GTA content. Like, basically, people kept telling me that my channel was gonna fail if I didn't do GTA Online content, and I haven't done GTA Online content for almost 2 years at this point, and my channel is still going strong. So I wanted, to show that I can also, grow my channel to other content, and I'm happy when I can do other content, and my channel will grow on that. But the second reason is, if you think the griefing is bad on Red Dead Online, where I get griefed on this game, if I try to play GTA Online, I'm gonna get griefed 10 times more. Like, it's gonna get much worse. Like, I would have to play in an invite-only session, because and even when I play an invite-only session, I'm not safe in there either, because there's some stupid glitch where they can join your private sessions and kill you also in there, and I've had that happen too. So there's just, people will constantly attack me on that game also. Does anyone need help selling anything, by the way? Saucer, you need help selling something, right?
You need help selling.
I do?
Yeah, but
Yeah, you got a full trader.
I have a full trader. Okay. Let me start up then.
If you were to stream GTA Online now, would you do it on your PS4 character or your
I'm about to
PS5?
tell us.
I'd probably do it on my PS5
Jason
character,
Statham.
because my PS5 character, I'm pretty much almost level 200 now, and I have close to $40 million. So I'd rather, start over again and play on my new character.
More to do on that new one.
And also, it's like, whenever I did videos on, like, my old character when I had, like, $1 billion, I'd see so many comments of people saying, oh, this guy's $1 billion, so he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to, work hard or play in the game or everything. When I play my new character, at least people will see that I'm, I'm starting out fresh again, and I'm showing that you can do everything, no problem, and still get, money in the game.
Yeah, I just quickly check my business, and it just finished now, so my trader. So
I've got 41 million now in GTA Online, the most I've ever had. What do you think of that? Thank you, Mario. I think you're pretty much good for the next update. I can't see it being more than that, so I think you're good for the next update, Mario. Okay, going to my camp.
Yeah, I never grieve on
What
my
I don't
life,
like
but
about the security contracts with Franklin is that when you call him, you can't choose the contract. It's just a random one. I don't like that.
That's Alfred.
Ah. I don't even know what I'm being wanted for.
Probably some random NPCs in a tattletale.
My book, Gone Before the Storm, is available for pre-order on Amazon. It'll be out August 1st. Sorry for the self-promotion. That's fine. What is the book about? Offer. Thank you. What are some of my favorite movies of the year so far? I don't really watch many modern movies, but I will tell you that my favorite movie that I saw last, that's a relatively new movie, is Midway. I liked Midway a lot. I think that I think more of these kids should watch a movie like Midway today and realize, like, the sacrifices that our heroes made for this country.
Definitely agree with that statement.
And the buyer already lined up. Now, I've basically done all the hard work. All you need to do is go make
okay, I
the
found it.
You know what bothers me so much about today's well, I'll tell you what bothers me so much about today's kids, like today's youth, is like literally most of the teenagers today, if you talk to them and you ask them, would they rather meet like a World War II veteran who was like on the beaches of Normandy and like help liberate France from the Nazis, or would you rather meet a celebrity? Most of them would choose to meet a celebrity over the World War II veteran. That bothers me a lot. And that's like, it bothers me personally when like kids look up to celebrities as like their heroes, when we've had actual heroes that fought and died for this country. And that's just, That's what personally bothers me a bit. My grandpa was in World War II. Well, thank you for your grandfather's contribution to helping defeat fascism. Okay, let's get over to Wallace Station here.
I had a great-grandfather fight in the Battle of the Somme in World War One, but luckily
Battle of
he
the
survived.
Somme was one of the worst battles of the
I got
war.
great grandfather who
It's
got
begun
Very
today
good.
as well, you
Air
know.
Force.
Today's the anniversary of its beginning, the Battle of the Somme. He survived it, luckily he got out, but he was there.
Well, thank you to your granddad's service. That was a horrible battle.
Yeah, it was horrendous.
I don't even have Red Dead Redemption 2 installed anymore. It takes up a bunch of space, and I don't play it because nothing new or worthwhile is being added. Well, thank you, Gaiman, and I agree with you. Thank you for the super chat. I don't blame you for not having the game, installed. There's not anything to do on the update.
We got bogus.
My great.
I mean, I don't agree. I don't agree with you, Chase. I would much rather talk to a World War II veteran than talk to some spoiled celebrity. What has a celebrity done for, like, you know, this world? Like, it's like nothing really. Just acted in a bunch of movies, and they're just millionaires. That's it. Like they didn't make any kind of massive sacrifice for this country. I know there are celebrities that help charities, don't get me wrong, and I'm not trying to group all celebrities together. What I'm saying is, like, there's a lot of celebrities that are very entitled people, and it's just, I'd much rather talk to a World War II veteran than talk to a celebrity.
The truth is, as well, though, these celebrities don't care about you. Like, they don't, so I don't know why so many people, like, look up to them, because they don't care. They're just rich people.
I talked to a pilot that fought in the Pacific War, like, several years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And, this is actually when I was working in retail. I knew he was a World War II veteran, and he told me, how he flew in the Pacific, and he fought the Japanese. And, I remember the thing that he told me specifically about that is, and this kind of, like, threw me off. But he said that he was the thing that terrified him the most wasn't even, like, dying in combat. He said that terrified him the most is getting shot down and getting captured by the Japanese. So he was more scared of getting captured by the Japanese than dying, and that's because of just the torture that, like, POWs had experienced and just the horrible things that the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy did to POWs. Yeah, I heard about that, Eric. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, I was gonna say, weren't the Japanese pretty notorious for their torture?
What were you say?
I said I was about to ask, weren't the Japanese pretty notorious for their torture of POWs? Because I've seen the photos.
Yeah, the
photos.
Japanese treated POWs very, very badly. You had a very low chance of surviving as a POW under Japanese If I had to rate Scarface the movie, thank you, JM. I would have, I'd give Scarface a 9 or a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I got the mission from Tom Davis' mission, but
My great-grandfather was in the
only-
Royal Navy. 3 days before the HMS Hood departed to go for Bismarck, he was moved to another ship, and it wasn't, and if he wasn't, I wouldn't have existed. Yeah, I've had my great-grandfather, he fought in the Battle of Monte Cassino in Italy. He fought in General Anders' army, Polish general. Yeah, it's like a lot of our grandfathers didn't, like, you know, some of our grandfathers, like, if they hadn't made it back from, like, the war, a lot of us wouldn't exist today.
My great grandmother also went out with a man who died in World War II, and then she remarried. And then if she never remarried, I wouldn't have been born. So I think it's a
No, I'm
crazy
sorry.
fact.
If you were to bring up World War II veterans to young generation, they would probably it's like I said, like it's like look at Midway. Like that movie was perfect. Like Midway, I had very little problems in that movie. A lot of people thought it was gonna suck when Midway first coming out, but it was actually a really good movie. And like a movie like that, like how much did Midway even get? Like Midway, I would have to look up exactly how much the Midway movie made, but it did not make an insane amount. I would have to look it up here. I'm curious on this. So Midway made a total of $126 million. That's how much, which is decent. But if you compare like the Midway like movie to like other things, like look at some of like the superhero movies, and I'm not even talking about like the big one like the I'm not even talking about like the big ones like the Thanos movies. I'm talking even some of the smaller like superhero movies. Those movies get way more. And it's like I think that like I think people would be more interested about like the history of like what happened during the Battle of Midway. And Midway cost $100 million to produce. That movie did, so that was not a cheap movie to make by any means. But yeah, Midway was a great movie. I like that one. Yes, that was and it's really horrible, JM. Thank you for the super chat.
Midway also has some historical, also the story behind Midway and how it came to be. Is actually, to me, is fascinating. Especially if you know about the Code Breakers. And what role they played.
Yes, Code Breakers did play a massive role in World War II. Helped break the German codes, and also the I'm pretty sure that during World War II there was also a Native American like battalion that they would speak in like the Native American languages, and that confused the Japanese because the Japanese had no translation for that, and so they were not able to break a lot of the American codes because of that.
There was a movie made about that with Nicolas Cage. I think it was called the Navajo Code. I think it was called the Navajo, something like that. If I heard correctly. It was made on that, I think.
Well, the next Reddit Online update probably won't come out for some time. Hello, Pro. Hope you're having a good day. You should play the first 3 Call of Duty games someday, especially playing as the Americans, British, and Soviets. Captain Price's ancestors in the first 2 games. Yeah, I gotta, I know Captain Price is in those games too, but I gotta play those games one day. I did,
Captain Price
Navajo Code Talkers, yes.
Okay, that was
Have you ever watched Enemy at the Gates? Yes, I watched Enemy at the Gates, and I did like that movie. It was a good movie. But Enemy at the Gates is kind of historically inaccurate. A lot of the characters aren't real. Like, Danilov wasn't real. That whole sniper duel that he had at the end, it didn't happen like that. In real life, when Vasily Zaitsev killed Major Koenig, he killed him when he was in the original position that he was in. Like, he was kind of like in a lower area, like kind of like behind some like sheet metal, like where he was originally in the movie. That's where Vasily Zaitsev killed him. It wasn't like where Danilov just came out of nowhere and just like sacrificed himself, and then Vasily just shot Koenig in the head. It didn't happen like that. And also, in the movie, Vasily Zaitsev knows that it's who Major Koenig is. But in real life, he didn't know who Major Koenig is. He just knew he was fighting a German sniper. He didn't know that he was, like, the head of some sniper school. So that's, that movie was a bit historically inaccurate. But it was still a good movie. I did like Enemy at the Gates. Oh, I did watch Band of Brothers, yes. Have I watched The Pacific? Yes, I have watched The Pacific. That was a really good one. Oh, we're right here, okay.
Here.
Regardless of the wars, Nicholas, is I always support the veterans, and that's the thing is that people oftentimes will blame the veterans for wars when it's not the veterans' fault. Like people blame a lot of veterans for the Vietnam War when the Vietnam War veterans weren't the ones who decided to go to Vietnam. They were drafted, and so they had no choice. But a lot of the American public didn't see it that way, and so they treated Vietnam veterans really badly.
Which is stupid.
Anyone who blames a Vietnam veteran for the Vietnam War is an idiot. That's just what I'll say. Is they had no choice, they were drafted. Regardless of whether you supported the Vietnam War or not, they had no choice. A lot of them, very few of them actually signed up. Most of them were conscripts. They had no choice to go there. And the fact that people will, say such nasty things to them when they had no choice, those people are idiots. I have to watch Hacksaw Ridge. I've never seen that movie. I know the real story. The guy did not believe in killing, and he was like a medic. He fought the entire war with just saving people. I know about that.
It's a real good movie though.
Yeah, he rescued 75 people, if I remember correctly.
It's the guy that plays Spider-Man. I forgot his name. But,
Yeah, and I'll say the Vietnam War is a very complicated conflict. Is like a lot of the times the people that talk about the Vietnam War, they have no idea what they're talking about. Like a lot of times I'll hear it where people will say the U.S. invaded Vietnam when that's not technically correct, because what happened was Vietnam was actually two countries at the time, and it was actually called the Indochina War. That's what it was, the French Indochina War, and then it became the Vietnam War later. But Vietnam historically was a colony of France, and then after World War II, France tried to conquer Vietnam and take it back, and Vietnam fought back against it. And you had two countries that emerged. The French lost, and you had the Viet Minh, who were a communist faction. They took over North Vietnam, and they had Hanoi as their capital. And then you had South Vietnam. Now, South Vietnam was not a democracy either. It was a dictatorship. South Vietnam discriminated heavily against Buddhist monks, and so a lot of Buddhist monks, they had those protests with them. But South Vietnam was like a Catholic dictatorship, where North Vietnam was a communist dictatorship. So both of them weren't democratic. But what had happened was the South Vietnam had requested aid from the U.S. because North Vietnam had invaded South Vietnam. So South Vietnam requested aid from the U.S. and the U.S. Came into South Vietnam with advisors. They sent advisors originally, and then later on they sent an entire force of conscripts. Yeah, it was like a lot of times I'll hear it where people will say the U.S. invaded Vietnam. Vietnam was two countries, so people don't understand. And North Vietnam was invading South Vietnam, and South Vietnam asked for the U.S. to be there. The U.S. didn't invade North Vietnam. They did send air missions over North Vietnam, but they didn't actually mass invade North Vietnam. And then what had happened was how the Vietnam War ended was the U.S. pulled out because of public backlash. And then what ended up happening was the North Vietnamese and the South Vietnamese signed a peace treaty. And they signed the peace treaty right after the U.S. had left, and North Vietnam agreed to recognize South Vietnam. And then I think it was 2 years later, North Vietnam broke the treaty and just invaded South Vietnam. And at that point, the U.S. didn't come back to. And then North Vietnam took it over. So North Vietnam broke the treaty. But a lot of people don't know about that history. They have a very biased view of the history, and they just they don't know a lot about it. But I still think the Vietnam War was personally a mistake. I don't think that we should have been there, but I don't have any problem with the veterans because they had no choice. They were drafted. But it was that also there's a lot of historical falsehoods. When I hear people say the U.S. invaded Vietnam, it's like they completely ignore North Vietnam invading South Vietnam. They completely ignore that. So that's people aren't oftentimes don't know it's that North Vietnam was invading. They ignore that part of the history.
And they were communists as well.
What, Saucer?
I think it's trivial. And they were communists.
Yeah, well, North Vietnam was trying to force communism in South Vietnam. And I'll tell you something, is like, generally, like, people in South Vietnam really hate the communists, like, really do. North Vietnam is more communist than South Vietnam, but people in South Vietnam, a lot of them, they really don't like the communists. And, like I've met Vietnamese Americans, they're some of the most anti-communist people that I've ever met. And it's just, South Vietnam, the capital of South Vietnam was actually called Saigon before North Vietnam conquered it. And after they conquered it, they renamed it Ho Chi Minh after North Vietnam's communist leader. And what happens is today, a lot of people still call it Saigon, even though it's called Ho Chi Minh, because they don't recognize that name. So that shows you just how much the South Vietnamese hate communism. So that's just that. Oh, there's a super chat. Let me see here. What are my thoughts on American Sniper? I've actually never watched it. Avatar made more money than Midway, 2.83 billion. Yeah, and I'm not denying that those other movies are popular, but I wish that people would like, a movie about like the Battle of Midway, which was like the turning point in the Pacific. I wish more people would be interested in stuff like that. It was that I wish people were more interested in like a movie like that, because people don't realize how important Midway was. If the U.S. had lost Midway, Japan would have taken over Midway Island, and then they would have used that probably as a staging ground to take over Hawaii. They could have actually invaded Hawaii if they had been successful at Midway. A lot of people don't know that, but it's people ignore that part of history and forget it a lot of times.
What a lot of people also don't know is that Midway was also called AAF by the Japanese intelligence, and the way the U.S. cracked it was they sent an encoded message reporting a water shortage at Midway, or target AF, and within 24 hours, the Japanese responded back. And that's how they found out it was Midway.
Did the U.S. lose Vietnam? The U.S., it depends on really who you ask. Some people will say that the U.S. lost that war. The U.S. pulled out, and then there was a peace treaty between North and South Vietnam. The U.S. won the vast majority of battles in the Vietnam War, and then North Vietnam violated the peace treaty years later and invaded South Vietnam. But it's like, what I'll say is that, like, for the people that say that the U.S. invaded Vietnam, they would have to also say that North Vietnam invaded South Vietnam. But oftentimes those people will say the U.S. invaded Vietnam, but they will be in complete denial when you tell them that North Vietnam was invading South Vietnam. Okay, I'm gonna go into a poker match here, guys. So I'm gonna go into game chat.
Okay.
Okay. Play a little poker here. It was kind of a civil war, but civil wars are typically fought within a single country, and then you have multiple factions that come up, where the Vietnam War started out with two countries, North Vietnam and South Vietnam, and North Vietnam invaded South Vietnam, and that triggered the Vietnam War. But there was already a war going on in Vietnam, many years before the U.S. even got involved, and so a lot of people don't know that history about it. One person was asking me about the Japanese in World War II. What I will say about the Japanese in World War II is, from a historical perspective, in my opinion, out of all the armies and enemies the U.S. has ever had throughout its history, I would say the Japanese army is the toughest enemy that the U.S. has ever fought in its history, ever. In my opinion. The only other one that I would say is that, the toughest one was probably the British Army. during the Revolutionary War because we almost lost and we wouldn't have a country. But in regards to Germany during World War II, Germany had better technology than the Japanese. They had way better technology and much better tactics. But I still think that the Japanese were much tougher enemies. And the reason I think that way is because even though the Germans had better technology, near the end of the war, when it was like 1945, a lot of Germans were mass surrendering. Like, they were just giving up, they were surrendering. Even in 1944 in France, a lot of Germans were mass surrendering. They were giving up. They realized that they weren't going to win. The ones who kept fighting on were the hardcore, SS scumbags and like the Nazi fanatics that fought on to the end. But a lot of the average German soldier was surrendering near the end of the war. They were giving up. But the average Japanese soldier, on the other hand, they were not surrendering. They were fighting on till the very end. And that's what was so scary about them, is that they fought till the very end. They would not surrender. They fought on. And if you look at like the island hopping campaign during the Pacific War, when the U.S. was taking islands, when the U.S. fought in those islands, they literally killed like 95% of all the Japanese soldiers on those islands because very few of them surrendered. There was some that surrendered, but the ones that did survive those battles were oftentimes Japanese soldiers that were wounded. They were wounded in battle, and then the Americans found them. That's how they survived. But a lot of them, they fought on till the end because they believed in Bushido, which was the code of the samurai, that you fight on till the death. And they believed that surrender was worse than death. And they believed that because they believed that by surrendering, you shame yourself, and you also shame the emperor who you're giving your life for, to surrender. So that's what was so scary about fighting the Japanese, that a lot of the Japanese would just fight on to the end. They would not give up. Even when they realized the battle was lost, they would still fight till the very end. And that's what was so terrifying. So that's, in my personal opinion, from a historical perspective, because I read a lot of history, I think that the Japanese are the toughest enemies the U.S. has ever fought in a war. Definitely. Gonna probably win this hand here. Yep, won this hand. Pro, have you seen Der Untergang? You're talking about the movie Downfall, the German movie. Yes, I've seen that movie. That's the movie of all the Hitler parodies. That's also that one. I've seen that movie. You are really intelligent. I wonder if you went to college. Thank you. I did go to college, but the vast majority of my history knowledge is just from me reading on my own time. I don't, hasn't from, college. Oh yeah, that was one of the worst massacres in human history. The Japanese killed so many people in China. It was gruesome. It was horrible. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, really, Anthony. I'm not gonna get into stuff like that. Thank you for the super chat. Keep up the good work, professional. You're a good guy. Thank you, specialist. Have I seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven? Yes. I've seen that movie some time ago. The thing about it is that, the thing is, though, is that both of those guys, like Saladin and King Richard, the thing about it is that both of those guys probably would have gotten along if they weren't enemies. Like, they were very similar to each other. And I don't think that neither King Richard nor Saladin were evil people. They did do some bad things during the wars, but I don't think that they were evil. Saladin, who was the leader of the Saracens during the Third Crusade, oftentimes when I think of him, I think of mercy, because he was known for giving mercy, so he would show a lot of mercy to Crusaders, and oftentimes the Crusaders would have to give a pledge, and that pledge was that if they promised to return home and to stop fighting, they would be free to leave. And so Saladin honored that a lot of times when he captured Crusaders. But if they broke that pledge and they came back and they fought, they'd probably be killed. So that was that. So Saladin was a pretty merciful guy. His depiction in Kingdom of Heaven, I thought, was pretty accurate. He was a pretty merciful guy. But about Saladin is Saladin did not take, and I think Saladin was also a very smart leader, because when Saladin took back Jerusalem, he didn't take revenge on the Christians when he took it back. He let the Christians practice their religions and still allowed the churches to exist in in Jerusalem. So he didn't seek vengeance. And so like I said, he's known for mercy. And I think that's what made him a good leader at the time. And also, I think Saladin was very smart because he knew that if he killed the Christians in Jerusalem, that more Crusader armies would come back. By showing them mercy, he's showing compassion, and it's gonna be harder. It's gonna be much harder to justify war against an enemy that's showing you mercy than an enemy that's killing you. So that's Saladin knew that very well. King Richard also, he had a very but both King Richard and Saladin died a few years after each other, after they made peace with each other. Saladin died from sickness, and King Richard died in battle. King Richard was in Europe, and he was fighting a war. I'm trying to remember what war he was fighting, but what happened to King Richard was he got hit with a crossbow bolt, and the guy who hit him with a crossbow bolt was captured. And King Richard on his deathbed asked the guy with the crossbow why he shot him, and he said that he killed his brother years ago. And that's why he shot him. And then King Richard actually gave the guy mercy for killing him, and ordered that he would be given some money and to be left alone. But after King Richard died, his request was not honored, and his knights ended up killing the crossbowmen. So that's the type of, you know, both Saladin and King Richard were pretty honorable guys at the time. They did do some bad things, but oftentimes they would keep their words. So they were not like, they weren't evil people. I wish Saladin would have made an appearance in Assassin's Creed 1. King Richard does. I wish he would have, Saladin would have also appeared in that game. But he's mentioned several times, but he doesn't actually make an appearance. Wow, look at that. Look at just my streak on this right now. You see this? Wow, look at that. That was a really good streak there. I believe the Chinese still hate the Japanese to this day for what happened in World War II. A lot of, thank you, Mario. But I would say a lot of people, they don't like the Japanese government, and this isn't just for the Chinese. A lot of people that were under Japanese occupation don't like the Japanese government. Like the Taiwanese don't either. A lot of Koreans don't either. The Koreans, the Chinese, Vietnamese. But the reason that a lot of people really don't like the Japanese government today is because the Japanese government denies a lot of the atrocities that they committed. So the Japanese government used slave labor, and they killed a lot of people in China, Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan. Those are only a few of the countries they occupied. There's way more countries they occupied. But the Japanese government denies a lot of this stuff. They have admitted to some of the things they do, but other things they deny it. And so that's what upsets a lot of people. There's also a lot of statues in Japan dedicated to Japanese generals during World War II that actually committed war crimes. So that is the problem that a lot of people have. There was actually a trade war started between Korea and Japan like a year or two ago, and the reason that trade war started was because the company, I think it was Mitsubishi. When I say Mitsubishi, people are thinking of cars right away. But what people don't realize is that a lot of these car companies did some really evil things during World War II. And I'm talking about Mercedes and Mitsubishi. German car company and Japanese car. During World War II, these companies built military vehicles. And what happened was during World War II, Mitsubishi had actually would use Korean slave labor. So they had Koreans they would kidnap and use them as slave labor. And the Japanese were very gruesome towards them, and they used them to build planes. So a lot of the Japanese planes were built using Korean slave labor, and what happened was the South Korean government had told Mitsubishi to pay for it, and Mitsubishi had refused, and the Japanese government also supported Mitsubishi, because some of these survivors are still alive. Some of those people that were used as slave labor by Mitsubishi are still alive to this day, and the Japanese government refused to admit to it. And what happened was South Korea then put some kind of trade embargo on Japan, something with trade, and that's what started the trade war between Japan and South Korea. So a lot of people didn't know what was going on, why South Korea and Japan had like a trade war going on, but that's basically what it came down to. Is the Japanese government was supporting Mitsubishi, and the South Korean government got angry about that. My grandpa survived the Japanese colonists with a gunshot wound and a few scars. Ultimately, his parents were butchered by them. I'm sorry to hear that. That's horrible. no, Mr. Waifu. There's nothing wrong with liking stuff from Japan. Japan is a great country today. It's a beautiful country. It's a very rich country. Has good standards of living. Japan, Japan has a lot of, places to visit, and a lot of, we know anime from Japan. We buy a lot of electronics from Japan. So buying stuff from Japan does not make you a bad person at all. And also, these are companies oftentimes that you're buying the products from. These aren't like, the government and stuff like that. But it's, Japan today is one of the most peaceful countries in Asia. It is one of the most peaceful and safe countries in Asia today. But Japan 70 years ago was a very different place. The Japanese Empire were one of the most aggressive countries at the time. They invaded so many people and they killed a lot of people. But today, Japan is a very peaceful country. So it's times have changed a lot. Yeah, my PlayStation is from Japan. You're right. If it wasn't for Japan, we wouldn't have PS5s. So there's a lot of products that come from Japan. But the reason that Japan became so successful, after the war, one of the reasons was because the U.S. had supported Japan a lot after World War II, and the U.S. was scared that Japan might fall to communism. After World War II. So the U.S. supported them, helped them rebuild, and what had happened was the Japanese, they don't have a standing military. A lot of people don't know that. They have a self-defense force, but they don't have a standing military because it was taken away after World War II. And so the Japanese focused on technology, they focused on, better standards of living, and, they were very successful. And, from 70 years ago when their country was destroyed heavily in World War II, they rebuilt significantly and are one of the richest countries today. And not only are they one of the richest countries today, they're one of the world's largest economies today. Japan constitutes a huge part of the world economy, so it's, Japan has been very successful in rebuilding.
They raised the prices at the saloon. Didn't bother to scrub the blood out of the...
I have watched Downfall. What I'll tell you is about Downfall, that movie. That movie has a lot of really interesting scenes that were deleted from it. But there's a few scenes of the Soviet soldiers coming into Berlin that was deleted. But it's a lot of people know Downfall for that Hitler Rants parody where he's in the room and then the generals tell him and he tells a bunch of people to leave and then he gets all angry and just starts screaming and stuff like that. But what people don't know is that scene actually happened. That scene really did happen. That scene where Hitler's in the room and he tells everybody to leave except for Krebs, Yodel, and Goebbels and a few other people. But that really happened. And basically the whole backstory behind him screaming and going on that temper tantrum was Hitler was a very delusional man. Hitler, even in 1945, when Germany was a few weeks from completely collapsing, Hitler was still confident that Germany was going to somehow win World War II. Germany had no chance in 1945. They had no chance of winning, zero. And Hitler was still somehow confident that Germany was going to win. He was completely delusional. And what had happened was he had ordered Steiner, one of his generals, to launch a counteroffensive against the Soviets that were encircling Berlin. And what had happened was Steiner was not able to get enough soldiers together, and they told him about that the attack never happened and the Soviets are breaking through the lines. And they're about to take Berlin. And basically then Hitler at that point finally realized that he was going to lose, and he went on this tirade blaming the German army and all this other stuff, and that did really happen when he was freaking out. Don't forget Fegelein. Yeah, and Fegelein was a person in real life also. The reason Hitler hated Fegelein was because Fegelein was Himmler's representative in Berlin. And what had happened was Himmler was trying to surrender to the Allies. And Hitler got really angry about that and had Fegelein shot. And also, Fegelein was also Eva Braun's brother. So Hitler's wife, Fegelein, was his wife's brother. And that was that. So Hitler had Fegelein shot, so that happened in real life too. Thank you, Mr. Waifu, for the super chat. But that movie, Downfall, is a pretty pretty historically accurate movie. A lot of the stuff that happened in that movie is very close to what Hitler's last days were in the bunker. We'll bet here. But one of the scenes in that movie, one one of the scenes in Downfall that shows you how evil Hitler was in that movie is there's this one scene where Albert Speer arrives, and Albert Speer was like Germany's head architect, so he was responsible for building a lot of projects in Germany. And what happened was Hitler gave Speer specific orders to destroy all German infrastructure before it's captured by the Allies. And when we're talking about infrastructure, oh, I just won $19 here. Yeah, I'm gonna back out of this match. I'm doing really good in poker. So basically, Hitler gave Speer specific instructions to destroy all German infrastructure. And the infrastructure that Hitler ordered Speer to destroy, it wasn't just military infrastructure. He ordered him to destroy everything vital. Bridges, train tracks, hospitals, schools, and farms, burning farms, and a lot of this stuff is not military related. This stuff was going to be necessary for like the German people to try to survive after the war. And by Speer destroying all the farms, the Germans would have no food; they would starve to death. By Speer destroying the schools, they would have nowhere to teach their kids. By Speer destroying the hospitals, they would have no hospitals to take care of people who are sick or wounded. And what had happened was Speer had disobeyed this order from Hitler, and there's a scene in Downfall where Speer is actually with Hitler. And Speer actually told Hitler that the German people need the hospitals and they need the schools after the war. And Hitler told him that the German people who get captured right now are worthless. That's basically what Hitler said. And he had said that the real Germans had already died. So Hitler was going to sacrifice every single last woman, man, and child in Germany. He did not care. That's how evil Hitler was. He was going to destroy even his own country. So that was like that one scene in Downfall just shows you just how much of a evil man that guy was. How did Hitler die? He shot himself in the head. He bit on a cyanide capsule and he shot himself in the head. There's a lot of conspiracies. People think that he like escaped to Argentina. I don't believe that. I think he really did kill himself. But there's like a lot of conspiracies thinking that he escaped and a lot of that stuff. Pro, do you like TGG and Dark Viper AU? I don't really watch much of TGG, but he's a good guy. I watch more of Dark Viper AU. Yeah, and Dark Viper AU is a friend of mine. I've talked to him before. I've actually made a video with him. So I talk to Dark Viper AU sometimes. Oh, there was a super chat. I'm sorry if I didn't read it. Will I play Assassin's Creed? Thank you, Andy. I will play Assassin's Creed 2 one day. Thanks, Andy, for the super chat. I'm really sorry I didn't read it. Thank you, Mr. Weifu. And thank you, JM58. We borrow money from Japan? Yeah, we borrow money from a lot of countries. Hello, Pro. It's Grady, Mobinator's friend. And question, can you do a lore video for the Albanian mob from GTA 4? Just like the McCurier's fun fact, the Albanian mob from GTA 4 is based on the Rudaj organization. Maybe, I could maybe do a video on them, but it would be very short, though, because there isn't a lot of material to cover. Because the Albanians have a very limited appearance in GTA 4. They don't appear a lot. And also, the Albanians that extort Roman are not the same Albanians that you see later in the game. Those are just Albanian loan sharks, like Darden, Darden and those guys. But the Albanians that you encounter in like the McCreary storyline, those are like, they're a gang that's basically gangs for hire. The Pegorinos are using them as muscle. Not the Pegorinos, the Ancelottis are using them as muscle. So that's that. No, I've never been on a battleship. I could do maybe Left 4 Dead one day. Do you like Young Hebrew? Yeah, he's a good guy. I've seen his channel. I think he stopped by earlier in the stream. We did a video together. He's a great guy.
Perhaps check the catalog.
I don't know, Nicholas. Have you seen the ship movie with Tom Hanks? You're talking about the captain, or is that no? I thought the pirate movie, right? No, I haven't seen that one. Yes, I will play the older Ace Combat games one day. Why did Somalia fail? Well, this will be my last historical question that I answer. Somalia used to be a military dictatorship. Somalia actually used to be a communist country. People don't know that. And what happened was Somalia got into a war with Ethiopia. I think it was Somalia that attacked Ethiopia first, but Ethiopia was another communist country. So it had two communist countries that were fighting against each other. And what had happened was the U.S. had supported, I think it was Ethiopia, where the Soviet Union supported Somalia, and the only reason the U.S. supported Ethiopia is because even though it's a communist country, because they just wanted to piss the Soviet Union off, because the Soviet Union was supporting the other side. But anyways, what had happened was, I'm trying to remember whether it was Ethiopia or Somalia that started the war, but regardless, there was a war that went on between Ethiopia and Somalia, so it was two dictatorships that were fighting each other, and what had happened was, the war ended with really no one winning, and afterwards, the communist regime in Ethiopia collapsed shortly afterwards, and Ethiopia was able to somewhat rebuild. But the communist dictatorship in Somalia collapsed, and after the communist dictatorship in Somalia collapsed, they never were able to rebuild. They never were able to rebuild a functioning government. So the last government they had was a dictatorship, and that was in the 1990s. And so that's where Black Hawk Down then comes in, because the militias took over. After the Somalian government collapsed, the militias took over, and they started mass murdering just tons of people. And the U.S. sent peacekeeping troops in to protect the Red Cross, and the militias were attacking the Red Cross. That's what happened. And a lot of U.S. troops got killed in Somalia because what had happened was the U.S. troops were getting shot at by kids. The militias were using kids, and a lot of the U.S. troops they didn't want to shoot at the kids. They never experienced something like that. They were trained to shoot at adults that were shooting at them. They weren't trained to shoot at kids, and so that broke a lot of the U.S. morale. Afterwards, the Somalian government never was able to reform. There is somewhat of a government in Somalia, but it has no power. It's nothing. So Somalia is like one of the few countries in the world where there's total anarchy. There's like no government. There's no rule of law, nothing. The militias, the gangs, and the pirates control Somalia. That's why the pirates are so strong in Somalia, because there's no law enforcement. So that's why they use Somalia as their base. Now, the scary thing about Somalia is that another country like Somalia might pop up in the future. You know what country that might be? North Korea. Because think about it this way. Somalia was a communist military dictatorship, and it collapsed. And Somalia was barely able to feed their people, and then they got into a war, and that war bankrupted their country. And North Korea can barely feed its people. And if the North Korean government was to collapse, it could happen like Somalia again, where it could become like a total like anarchy country. There'd be like no rule of law, no law and order, nothing. But it'd be much more dangerous than Somalia, because now you have nuclear weapons, and so you might have like rogue North Korean generals that start selling like nuclear weapons on the black market and stuff like that. So North Korea, that could have the same thing that happens in Somalia could very well happen to North Korea one day. It's entirely a possibility. A lot of people don't think about that. North Korea could become another Somalia in Asia. But that's basically the backstory of Somalia. A person asking me about what I think of Somalian history. I do like to read a lot. Let's see here. What's for dinner? Probably cook some chicken. Do you think Dimitri is similar to Lorne Malvo? Lorne Malvo is a great villain. He's one of my favorite villains ever. Lorne Malvo is a hitman in Fargo. Lorne Malvo is a psychopath, and there's very few TV shows that depict a psychopath really accurately, but Lorne Malvo represents a psychopath perfectly. And Lorne Malvo is like the worst kind of psychopath that you can meet. That's like he enjoys what he does. He's a very terrible person. He manipulates people. He has no conscience. He doesn't care about others. He is similar to Dimitri in that Dimitri and Malvo are both psychopaths. But the difference between Dimitri and Malvo is that Dimitri sends other people to do his dirty work and then betrays them, where Malvo betrays people, but he does everything himself. So he does manipulate others, but in the end he does do everything himself. So he's not like Dimitri, where he's just sending out people. And Malvo is not a coward, like Dimitri. Like Malvo accepted his death. Like when Malvo was about to die, he accepted his death and he still laughed. So he didn't care, really. Where Dimitri would beg for his life. So it was like, that's the difference between them. The elevator scene freaked me out. It was so unexpected. I actually saw that coming. I didn't get shocked by it when he shot the people in the elevator. Because when he said, Lester, is this really what you want? I knew that was going to happen. He was going to do something bad. So that was just, yeah. But honestly, if you want to know how scary of a guy Lorne Malvo is, like, honestly, I am more scared of Lorne Malvo than I am of Trevor. Like, honestly, I would rather hang out with Trevor than hang out with Malvo. That's it. Trevor's killed way more people than Malvo, but Malvo is just so, he is so unpredictable, and he can betray you at an instant, and Malvo has no compassion, nothing. There's nothing, like, good about that guy. There's not one shred of good in him. It's just complete evil when you look inside him. There's nothing good about, Malvo. No, Trevor is a bad guy. But Trevor isn't evil. That's the difference. Malvo is evil. Trevor is just a bad guy. There's a difference between them. Malvo enjoys what he does and betrays people. Trevor will never betray his friends. So if you're a friend of Trevor, Trevor might bully you, might push you around, might have you do something stupid, but he's never going to betray you. He's not going to kill you. The only time Trevor would kill you is if you piss him off enough. That's the only time Trevor is going to kill you. But if you're a friend of his, he's never going to betray you. But like Malvo, on the other hand, Malvo will betray everyone, will screw everyone over, doesn't care, has no compassion, nothing, is complete evil. He's a complete predator. He preys on everybody. He considers people his prey. So that's the type of person Malvo is. He's like a really bad guy. I'm trying to think of something with Malvo also, but yes, yes, I don't know anything about Thanos, so I can't answer that question, but yes, like I said, Malvo is a much scarier guy than Trevor. He's way scarier. For people that want to know the character that I'm talking about, just go on YouTube and look up Lorne Malvo, Fargo. It's spelled M-A-L-V-O, Fargo, Malvo Fargo, and you'll see that guy. He's really scary. Malvo is like Claude from GTA 3. Yeah, I would say they're a bit similar to each other. The only difference is Claude doesn't talk, but they're very similar to each other, yes. You know what the scariest scene with Malvo was? And I'll say this before I go. The scariest scene with Malvo in Fargo was when he allowed himself to be caught by the police. So he purposely allowed himself to be arrested, and it had nothing to do with his plan. He only wanted to mess with the cops and show how smart he was, and he pretended to be a priest. He literally disguised himself as a pastor, and the scary thing about that is he was actually mimicking a Minnesota accent. Because Malvo has a southern accent, but yet he put on a perfect Minnesota accent. Like, he did that Minnesota accent perfectly. And he tricked a police with that accent. And he claimed that he was a pastor. And he made himself seem like a defenseless pastor, like a priest. It was just really creepy. And he fully convinced the two detectives that he was talking to that he was innocent and he was just a harmless priest. And that they had the wrong guy. That's what was so scary about him. And people like that exist in, real life. People like Malvo. Maybe I'll do a video, a lore video on Malvo one day, but it's just, that's, he is just, Malvo is like a very scary guy, and you would never want to cross paths with him, ever. One of the worst people you can possibly meet. I didn't notice it until it was, that scene with the doctor, Vader. Thank you for the super chat. Yes, I know Sean Easy World. He's a cool guy. I've seen a lot of his videos. Yes, I will do SOCOM 2 one day. No, I haven't watched Obi-Wan. Do you know who Optimus is? Yes, I've talked to Optimus once before. We talked through messages. Well, he came by my stream, but Optimus knows who I am, and I know who Optimus is. I follow him on Twitter. He follows me. Yeah, he's a good guy. You probably get this a lot, but is the game Bully on the agenda? Yes, Bully is like a game that I will play. Thank you for the super chat, Fisher Freak. I might do a video on the Boss Factory when I get around to it. Who is more loyal to his friends, peers, workers, Tommy Vercetti or Trevor? Tommy. Definitely. Who is worse, Tony or Trevor? Well, Tony has killed way more people, but Trevor is more unstable. No, I wouldn't want to meet Claude. How do you do retail, YouTube and retail at the same time? I haven't worked in retail in almost 3 years. I don't know why you think I still work in retail. Malvo is more evil than Sosa? Yeah, I would say he is. Yeah, and the thing is though, the guy who played as Lester in Fargo, like, he did a perfect Midwestern accent, like perfect, like, or perfect Minnesota accent, I should say. And the thing is though, when what was it? When Malvo says, I think, "you betcha," that's like such a Midwestern and like Minnesota thing. And what does he say? I'm trying to remember the other word that Malvo used. It's a Minnesota slang word. What was it? Was it ope? I'm trying to remember, but it was perfect. So both Lester. Lester, the guy who played as Lester, he's British, and I didn't even know he was British. I thought he was from Minnesota because it's how well he did that accent. But he did a really good job with that accent. Really good. I mean, I would disagree with you, Pop. I like the Midwest more than New York. But I will be going here, guys, so thank you guys for stopping by, the stream. And if you guys did enjoy, like, did enjoy my stream, do drop a like on it if you guys did enjoy it, and you guys do enjoy, my content. It does help me to make more content. And, I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching, and take care, guys. Have a wonderful day.